And good morning, everyone, and welcome to Small Biz Matters, the half-hour program where you work on your business rather than in it. My name is Alexi Boyd. It's great to be joining you another week this Tuesday, this fine Tuesday. We look at the weather. It's a beautiful day, and we're going to be talking about beautiful things today. So I'm so excited to have a guest on the program today, someone we've been looking forward to having for the last couple of weeks, and it's just in time for Mother's Day.
Yes.
When we're all thinking about things that are flowery and beautiful and loving and warm and nurturing, and that pretty much epitomises you, Amy Harrison.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thanks for coming on the show. Now, you're from Art of the Flower.
That's right.
And you have many hats, which we're going to talk about today and talk about your journey. We love to talk about small biz journeys and how people arrive at their career that they're in now. And, of course, what your passions are and how you love to bring that to the local business community. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here.
Now, take me through your background and what led you into this particular aspect. So you specialise in floral arrangements and also floral artistry classes. Don't let me put words in your mouth.
No, that's
you
fine.
Tell me.
You're on the right track.
Yeah.
So my main specialties are weddings, event floristry and workshops. So I actually became a floral teacher or a florist teacher a number of years ago, but I started doing my own personal and private workshops through my business a couple of years before that. Mm-hmm. So I started off in the retail world, as most young girls do, fresh out of high school, and sort of worked my way through doing the displays and the visual merchandising within the retail stores. Loved that side of the creative side of retail, but also felt like I needed to be doing, or I should have been doing, more of an artistic side of things. My mum's actually an artist, so there is some creativity that runs through my blood. And when I actually moved to London for a couple of years, I was inspired there with, the amazing art and culture that oozes out of Europe. And actually an idea was put into my head by a fellow worker when I was working at a museum there, Victoria and Albert Museum, and she suggested becoming a florist. We're sort of umming and ahhing about what we're going to do when we go back home. We're both Australians living in London. And I thought, yes, floristry. Somehow, out of nowhere, since I wasn't a big green thumb when I was young, floristry just made sense to me. I think it was implementing design and, in a way, retail, because you're working in a shop, you're selling a product, you're selling flowers, the beauty, the nature. So I came back to Australia, I enrolled in TAFE, I found a job at a local florist, and 10 years later, I'm still going. So I started my business about 4 years after working for a number of florists. I've been in business now for 6 years. And I started a gorgeous little shop called Art of the Flower in Balmain. So I started from scratch. I had nothing except the idea and the vision. So I had to buy my table and all my shelving and my little register. And it was scary that first sort of week of opening, and just hoping and willing that it was all going to work. And slowly and surely it did. I developed a nice customer base there. And I sort of fell into the wedding side of things just due to my age. People around me were getting married. They knew that I was a florist, and they knew that I'd cut them a good deal, which I did. And that sort of became the dominoes effect of doing weddings, and then that carrying on to events later down the track. And also businesses around the area would do their weekly flowers too. So after actually a couple of years of having the shop, I decided to move into what's called a studio florist. So I'm Art of the Flower, floral design studio. Due to circumstances somewhat out of my control, but in a way it was the best thing that ever happened to actually
take you to the new level.
Yeah, absolutely, because it allows me freedom to be able to do things like this, meet my potential and future customers. So go to events and networking meetings, which is a great way to build your business. Rather than sort of sit in a shop and waiting for customers to come to me, I therefore actually go and seek out my own customers.
I suppose that is something that people who move into retail may not realise without that, the hindsight experience, is that you are locked in, especially since you may not be able to afford to have someone look after the shop for you at any one time.
Yeah.
You're there 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day, probably more likely.
Yeah, come Valentine's and weddings, the hours are slightly stretched. Yeah.
And you've got all the usual, stretches and the stresses that come with working as a small business, making sure you're meeting client demands. How are the bridezillas?
Look, I haven't really, I know.
You're lying now.
Question. No. Look, all the brides have been pretty lovely, I've got to say, because I always have a consultation with them and I'm sort of chatting, back and forward. And because I myself have been a bride, so I got married last July.
Were you a bridezilla?
God,
go on,
God,
Amy.
no. I was the perfect bride. What are you talking about? And I, of course, did my own flowers. So I chose to get married in winter, not because I absolutely love the cold, but purely because it's...
You love the flowers.
Flowers last well in cooler climates.
Huh.
So it allowed me time to be able to do my own flowers and plan everything else. And I sort of think there's nothing worse than a bride or the groom sweating on their wedding day, the makeup running, the hair going frazzled. So all these little ideas led me to have a winter wedding. And also it's a slightly quieter time in the floral world. So I could take a 6-week honeymoon, come back to work, spring, ready to go.
So tell me something. You know how, anybody who's a doctor has really sick children and bookkeepers have really bad bookkeeping books. How are your flowers on your wedding? Were they as good as you would have produced for your clients? Or did you cut some corners?
Probably not as good, actually. I think because I had, unlimited range and ideas, it was actually hard to sort of narrow down what do I really want out of my
because you loved all the flowers.
I love all the flowers.
All
I'm
the
not
colours.
biased. Even the gerbras, like gerbras get a bad rap, or baby's breath. I didn't actually have any of those in my bouquet, but I like very earthy, rustic kind of flowers. So I had my ceremony in a park back in Balmain where I used to live, and then followed by a sort of stand-up cocktail style lunch at the Riverview pub. And so it was sort of succulents and, lots of colour, purples, pinks, mauves. But no, I mean, I'm sure I've actually done far better weddings than my own because I think there is a little bit of stress behind it. So it was, and I kept it fairly simple because on the day I was obviously busy getting married or, preparing for that. So I had to put the trust in my friends to sort of set everything up. So it was difficult for me to let go of the control because I love to do everything. I want people's weddings to be perfect because I know how much it means to someone on the day for everything to go right.
So take me through that journey. I'm fascinated by, first of all, that conversation you were having with a friend in London and then coming back, and you really did throw yourself into the deep end. You obviously did the right research and you figured out what course you need to do and then going through the process of having a little bit of experience. But it must have been quite nerve-wracking setting up a business in a retail store because obviously there's a lot of outlay. You've got to purchase a lot of things to make the store start up.
Sure.
You've got signage issues, advertising.
Oh God, and did we have signage issues? Well, yeah, all that stuff I was doing from nothing. I didn't really know anyone in the business world. None of my family members had ever embarked on this journey.
So how did you find out what to do? Did you just ring people up and go, I want to do this?
I love researching. I really like researching.
That's the thing. This is the thing about people who embark on a new or a left turn of their career is you've got to have that research skills to be able to make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I sort of narrow options to the best, to the best decision that I think is viable for my business. So even with signage, I looked around, I searched around. My ex-partner at the time was a graphic designer, so he actually came up with all my logo. He helped me put together my website. When we parted ways, I took ownership of all of that. So when it came to the signage, I think we actually got somewhere from Melbourne. We actually got it delivered by courier. He had to buy a special gun thing from Bunnings to actually clip it onto the awning that was on the shop front. But everything, there's always little hicks, little problems that you encounter with all that sort of stuff. Furnishings, I sort of looked on Gumtree. I found bits and pieces around the street. It was sort of eclectic stuff, but it worked in a florist because I think you can have, you're showing off the flowers, not the furniture in a way. And
it's that distressed look, isn't it, that people always talk about?
Organic and rustic. Yeah, absolutely. And
broken. No, just
no. When I had the shop, it was actually a little bit of a flower gift shop. So at that time I was art of the flower, flowers, gifts, art. So with my mother being an artist and a couple of friends being jewellery designers.
Oh, you could put things on the wall and you could sell their stock. Yeah,
absolutely. Because it was a reasonably good sized shop. So I didn't want to fill it with flowers because again, that's a cost issue. You need to sell those flowers. I also had a fridge. I rented the fridge to start off with. Now I own it. So I looked at ways to minimise the startup costs so I didn't go broke. And slowly built it from there. So it was a lot of hiring rather than buying, a lot of picking up things, you know.
And really, as you said, researching and making sure you're getting the best deal for each of those
absolutely.
things. What was your lead-in time? I mean, not from when you stepped off the plane and finished your TAFE course, but when was your lead-in time from when you saw the shop, realised that that was the space and before you opened? What would realistically be that time frame?
It was probably about 3 months, actually. So I had
Were you outlaying for rent at that time?
Yes, I was. No, actually, I think I got a deal on the rent. I think we had a 3-month rent-free period for a 2-year contract.
Great.
So I found the space. I was actually ideally looking in Glebe. I thought Glebe would be a great place for a florist. So that was also the research that went into it, which I learnt from my TAFE studies. You know, we had to actually put together a business plan for the year.
I wonder if they still teach that as part of, well, actually, you're a TAFE teacher.
I know.
So do they still teach that business acumen as part of the course?
I would hope they do, but I think they actually bring in sort of contract workers. I don't think they've actually got a florist teaching the floral side of business as yet. I mean, I'd be happy to step in. Yeah,
exactly.
Because
experience
I've
speaks
learned
wonders.
so much over the years. So yeah, it was about 3 months of setting up the shop, working out, you know, how to get myself online. You know, that's the main thing. You've got to be there up with Google. You've got to get on the social media. Social media was, you know, it was around, but it wasn't as in high demand as it is now. Instagram, I don't even think was really there yet. So I was Facebook junkie, and then later became an Instagram junkie, and then a Pinterest junkie. You know, there's so many free ways you can advertise your business.
Free, hang on a second, let's just take a step back there. Free, but it costs your time.
Sure. But I mean, I'm taking, you know, I'm a little budding photographer as well. So I'm taking flat photos of my work as it is, because I actually, when someone orders a bunch of flowers to be delivered to a home, I actually take a photo of the design once it's finished, and on completion of delivery, I send that client the photo of their design, just so they can see that what they've been given, because often customers might not, you know, the recipient might not take a photo when it's done. So I sort of use that image, I post that here, post that there. And weddings, I mean, the photography is so beautiful that clients actually send me their photos, which, you know, they're happy for me to load up. Everyone wants to be famous online some way or another. So
exactly. And it's a good way to integrate all those skills that you were speaking about leading into this career, you know, the research skills. Obviously, you've got the acumen, the business acumen. I don't know where that's come from, because you've obviously, because you said that wasn't in the family, but you've done that very well.
Yeah.
And then obviously tying it in with the education side of things and tying it in with customer service. So it sounds as if that first part of your journey has been really successful.
Yeah, it has.
Like when we come back from the break, we're going to talk a little bit about working with colour in your working environment and how to spruce it up and not necessarily just grab your corporate colours and those exact type of flowers or anything like that, but maybe sort of looking at different colour workings. You're listening to Small Biz Matters on Triple H 100.1 FM. We'll be back after this short break. So we'll talk a little bit more about colours. Colours. Now,
my favourite subject.
I have no sense of colours at all. I have no design creativity. I have,
you put together a good outfit this morning, though.
But I've been wearing the same outfit for 2 years. So how do you spruce up and bring life into what is often a vacant, dead, beige, if you're lucky you've got natural light, office? Because so many times, and I find myself doing this, I move into an office space, I go, I'm not exactly sure how long I'm going to be there for, but it's crazy not to put things up on the wall.
Yeah.
It's crazy not to bring some life into the office. So what's an immediate fix? For those of you who are sitting in your office right now looking around you going, blah, it's so drab, it's so boring, I'm sick of looking at the same thing. What's a good immediate fix?
Immediate fix is get online to artoftheflower.com.au. Give me a call. Let me come in and have a look at the space. Because, I mean, I'm all into feng shui and things like that. I think you can't help being a florist.
So this is what an interior designer and feng shui expert might be able to do is kind of look at the space around you.
See what's needed. I mean, you could also match to your corporate colours, you know, if that's something you'd want to...
Mine are blue.
Okay,
So
there's limited blue flowers, but no, you probably wouldn't want blue flowers, you know, on a weekly basis anyway. But with offices that don't really have a lot of natural light, I wouldn't suggest a living plant because it's going to need natural light unless you're happy to take it out on your lunch break with you as like a little pet. No, the plant's going to suffer. Us humans, we need natural light too. So weekly or fortnightly flowers in winter is manageable because it's cooler. And it's something that I can obviously look into to just bring some vibrancy and some of nature indoors.
So realistically, if you don't have natural light, you're not going to have something that's going to survive.
No. I think in that sense, you'd like a nice flower arrangement that gets replenished by me. You don't even have to do a thing. Maybe just top it up with water because flowers get thirsty like us. And I actually choose appropriate flowers. So I choose longer lasting flowers such as natives and tropicals. No necessarily roses or gerberas or possibly not even lilies. Lilies get quite messy once they open up. That pollen
stains.
That
it full on it stains, doesn't it? And some people are allergic to it as well.
Yeah, it's overpowering.
And that's something else we should mention as well in terms of work health and safety. I'm just going to put my admin hat up now. Please make sure that the people around you in the office space, you need to check with them if they've got any allergies, just out of consideration.
Yeah.
Not that it needs to be a thing, but just, if they say to you, I'm going to die if you bring in.
I'm going to have a sneezing attack.
Yeah.
And I won't be able to come into work.
I'm going to sneeze on top of you. Yeah. So don't bring in the flowers. Flowers are an easy one, but what about people who might not have the budget to do weekly flowers? What would be something you could suggest?
You could go with a nice potted plant if you've got a little bit of natural light coming in. And that's, there's a variety of indoor plants that will work well within offices. Honestly, flowering plants don't last as well as, green.
Your African violets, they just 5 minutes,
look, they're little Mother's Day ideas that will last a couple of weeks. So you'd be looking at things like peace lilies, beautiful ferns.
Succulents?
I love succulents.
Succulents are great, aren't they? Do they need a lot of natural light though?
Look, they need a little. They're pretty hardy and they actually don't need much water. So if you're a plant killer, like many of us out there, you would like succulents, even cacti.
I can kill a rosemary bush.
Oh, no.
I have killed a rosemary bush. I'm terrible.
Oh, wow. I need
Absolutely
to teach you some things then. And I've actually started exploring, other ways to showcase succulents. So everyone's probably seen those terrariums where the succulents are sort of in a nice glass vase with pebbles and things like that. Yeah. I've started actually making kokodamas, which are Japanese-style hanging plant. So they actually don't require any container. So they're purely sort of working in that organic material, and it can be tied with string. You can hang it up over your desk somewhere, and it's just really fun and funky. I think it's quite inventive. So there's many things you can do to brighten up a dull office, and sure, stick some pictures up of flowers on the wall too.
Pictures up of flowers.
If you're working in a dungeon. Find some photos of flowers.
I have to say, I'm quite anti-plastic flowers for a couple of reasons.
Oh, a fake, yeah.
Yeah, for starters, it's just really bad for the environment to use plastic.
Yeah.
But also the fact it just starts to look really old. They fade.
They go dusty.
Yeah.
They actually go dusty. Yeah.
Dust them.
Look, I'm not a big fan of artificial flowers. I actually use them in things like flower crowns. So when flower crowns are all the rage these days, and I do flower crown workshops, which I just love teaching. But if you wanted a flower crown that will last forever, so you can wear it every time you go to a party or the races or just popping down the shops, there's actually some pretty cool looking fake flowers that work well in flower crowns.
Oh, okay.
Because you're not sort of seeing the stems. It actually can pass often as a real flower. But when you see and there's a lot of businesses.
Westfield.
The fake flower arrangements.
Hate them.
There is something quite tacky, and I think because that they're fake. I mean, maybe some people will think they're real. They don't have that essence. There's no soul there. So it's pretending to be flowers.
And that is something that's really lovely about bringing in something live into the place that you're working in, apart from yourself. But you may have died. It's nice to sort of bring in that life, that soul of the colour as well. And talk to me a little bit about shape and texture as well, because obviously colours are important and we're all quite aware of colours with being in the small business world and what balances things out. But if you can't put colours up on your wall, and potentially if you can't put pictures up on the wall, what else can you do to, liven things up, maybe in terms of shape or tone?
What's left? Look, there's actually ornamental things you can get. There's a shop called Koch, Koch. It's out in Auburn. That's sort of where us florists buy our bits and pieces. They sell all kinds of things. They sell beautiful little, I think they're called rattan balls. So they're organic looking that you might be able to use in various ways. You could actually make an arrangement, not in fake flowers, not in real flowers, but you could use a bunch of maybe sticks and, organic looking products that aren't going to affect anyone. They're going to last forever.
I went to an office once in the city, and rather than having a Christmas tree, they had this. It basically looked like someone had pulled it out of their garden. It was quite a big, funky-looking twig.
Oh, yeah.
And what they'd done is they'd got little things to hang on the tree.
Yeah.
And I'm still having that great debate with my husband about whether or not Christmas trees are you better to have a recycled plastic one for 10 years or a live one that you chop down every year. I'm still confused about where to sit with that one. But you know what was nice is that I could reuse this over and over again, and it kind of had that organic textural feel.
Yeah. Well,
So
I
maybe
actually
that's
I made for my regular clients a couple of hairdressers that I do, and every Christmas I do something a bit different. So I vary it, so it's not getting the same sort of Christmas arrangement. So for last Christmas, I made out of tortured willow, which is a stick that is sort of really climby and spaghetti-like. I actually curved them into wreaths. So I had, say, maybe 4 different size wreaths moving up to a point.
Oh, like
and then I used
like a pyramid.
like a pyramid. And then I used the chunkier part of the tortured willow because it gets thinner towards the end. And that's how I made sort of the actual pyramid itself. And I tied all the little wreaths on to the sticks. And then I hung Spanish moss, which probably you've seen around. It's also called old man's beard. It grows like crazy. It has an interesting root system where it doesn't need anything, just needs some water. I hung those. I had moss on the bottom. I hung little actual decorations. And then there's some other flowers that you can get from the markets that don't actually need water. So billy buttons, they're yellow. They look like wool. They look sort of like hard wool, bright yellow little balls. Streligia, which again is smaller balls, which the growers actually spray a variety of colours. There are other flowers that don't need water. Streligia, billy buttons, and then you can come up with some fabulous shape to sort of display them. So there's many things you can do to create a beautifully natural, organic scene.
Without having to have the bright flowery.
Yeah, and if you're
colours.
Environmentally friendly, you don't have to chop down trees or buy fake trees to make it appear homely.
Yeah, no, it's a really snazzy idea. I presume that your Instagram account would have lots of...
Instagram would be, lots of options. Yeah, I would have taken plenty of photos. And I actually put on little fairy lights on these as well.
That's a lovely idea in terms of texture and light and vibrancy.
So at night time when people would walk past the hairdresser, they would just see that there's a little glimmer of sparkle in there. So yeah, hop online to my Instagram page, which is Art of the Flower, and just backtrack. A few months, I guess now, Christmas
and see what other options are there.
Yeah.
So it's not just about having a pot of flowers in the office or even a living plant. There's lots of different things you can do with organic material.
Yeah, I love using
funkier.
sticks and bark and things that are sort of around us, but you never really think, this could work into some kind of arrangement.
Channel your inner creative, because it will make a difference. Because if nothing else, it's almost like our sight lines when we're working in an office environment become very boxy. They're very perpendicular. Everything's a straight line, and that goes against
the grain.
Well, yeah.
The earth is round. Everything in the universe
and
is actually round.
Flat. Nothing is perfectly flat in the organic world.
And I think working with technology as well, like I cover my TV when I'm not using it with a nice sarong. Because I've got this big black void in the lounge room is causing some kind of brainwave issue. I don't know. Call me crazy.
I don't mind that idea.
Yeah, and it's something colourful then you get to look at. It sort of becomes an artwork rather than a big black square in your lounge room.
Yeah.
So I think with all this technology that's constantly around us, our phones, we're addicted to our computers, our phones, our TV. You need to balance it out with nature. And if you don't have the time to actually go exploring bushwalking on the weekend, which I highly advise you do, you need to have that connection with nature in other ways.
Yeah, and connecting with it in the office environment is a great way to do it.
Sure, it would make you work better. Tell the bosses that. It'll increase productivity. Increase productivity, yeah.
Just calmness.
Yeah.
Have a little fish tank maybe, and a little bit of a waterfall. Some trickling might make you want to wee, though.
That does it sometimes, yeah.
And the other thing that we haven't touched on as well, because I was talking about this a couple of weeks ago with my listeners, is the importance of keeping everything quite colourful and bright and airy and lively for mental health.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone sort of says, you must love being a florist, working with flowers all day. It must be so good for the soul.
You are very cheery.
I am pretty cheery. I have my moments. But I think... Yeah, I put that to working with nature. I mean, it is a lovely profession that I have. I wouldn't give it up for anything. I think I'll be doing it to the day I die. And I think having my business, it's transformed over the years. I mean, obviously I've gone from shop to studio. I've developed teaching floristry, which I really love. I love being able to share my knowledge and pass that on. So people can do this at home or pass that on to people, their children, their children's children. So I think there's something very nurturing about it, working with my hands. I mean, like I mentioned, my mum was an artist. She's a painter. I studied art, but I sort of wasn't ever really sure where my talents really lay. I sort of loved sculpture and I love photography, and I think somehow floristry actually does combine those elements. It's actually very difficult to take photos of flowers because they can look quite flat. So, just another point, if you ever do want to take some photos of flowers, do it outside. Take your arrangement outside where there's natural light. The fluorescents don't do anything for those.
They flatten out the colours, wouldn't they?
Do. Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely it brings out the nurturing side for me. And I think although there are some pressures with weddings and time demands and Valentine's Day, I think for me, working out of a studio from my home, I'm relaxed because I'm in my home environment. I've got my studio set up just how I like it. I've got my music on, my Triple H on, of course. And I'm calm and I'm at peace. And I think the flowers can sort of sense that. I mean, we're all sort of energies, plants, flowers. We've all come from the same ground. So I think there's some connection with that.
And connection with colour and life.
Oh, I love colour. I mean, you've seen me before with my unicorn roots that I had a couple of years.
Oh yeah,
you
did too.
I'm back to pink now. So I've just got a nice soft pink in my hair colour at the
Amy's
moment.
very colourful, by the way, everyone. You can't see that on radio, but she's very, very colourful.
I can't wear black. I put black on the other day, and I was going out somewhere in the city, and
funeral.
And there was a St. Vinny's or something on the way, and I had to pop in and buy a new top to put on my black top because I felt like withdrawn. I felt pale and I thought, no, I need some colour. What am I doing?
There are no black flowers.
No, there isn't. There's a very dark red rose, but it's not black. And there's a bit of foliage. There's actually a foliage called Dark Night, and it's a very deep burgundy. But no black flowers. No.
That's something to be said. There's something in that for all of us.
Absolutely.
We're going to take a quick break here on Triple H 100.1 FM. We'll be back after the break talking a little bit of Amy about sharing your expertise with small business listeners, bringing in the journey from beginning to end, and then how to just bring that little bit of life into your office. You're listening to Triple H 100.1 FM. Well, that sounds absolutely fabulous. So make sure you check out Art of the Flower, everyone, to find out about the upcoming workshops and, of course, Amy's wonderful expertise when it comes to your office, your home, your wedding, your events, whatever it is that you need. So thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's good fun.
It's been awesome and colourful, and I have to go and look at my office again and fix it. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you next week on Small Biz Matters on Triple H 100.1 FM.